Day 2 of the Munich Conference. One of the main speakers, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He began by contradicting a thesis put forward the day before by German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier.
Collectively winning. That the United States rejects the international community. End of quote. I'm here this morning to tell you the facts. I'm happy to report that the death of the transatlantic alliance is grossly over-exaggerated.
That may be, but the morning's other main speaker was not so sure. French President Emmanuel Macron said Europe must become more independent of the US.
If we have no freedom to act, then we have no credibility in foreign policy, and we can't be a junior partner to the United States of America.
Macron and Pompeo also disagreed over one of the main themes of this year's conference, that the West is losing global influence.
When I look at the world as it's being shaped, and that's the theme of your conference this year, there is indeed a weakening of the West.
This idea of Westlessness as the core theme for this year's conference. And I'm sure, too, there are many of you who would call yourself here realists. Well, let me give you an idea of what's real. The West is winning.
15 years ago, we thought that our values were universal, that we were going to dominate the world in the long term, that we were dominant in terms of technology, military, and so on. And then I look at the horizon of 10 to 15 years. We are going to be increasingly pushed by other agendas and other values.
The Free West has a far brighter future than illiberal alternatives. We're winning, and we're doing it together.
It was left to NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg to try and smooth over the continuing transatlantic tensions.
Europe and North America are indispensable partners, two sides of the same coin. So when we stand together, we can compete with confidence, protect our interests, and defend our values. Thank you.
DW correspondent Terry Schultz is covering the conference for us from Munich. She joins us now for more. In fact, Terry, you're doing more than just covering the conference. You're actually moderating one of the panels this morning, the Pompeo panel. You were moderating that discussion. What was your biggest takeaway?
Carl, I think the thing that struck me the most was how different this Pompeo speech was from those we've seen in Brussels or the comments that President Trump makes about the European Union. You know, normally they're all about America first, America leading. And in this case, as you heard, Secretary Pompeo said, we're a team and we are winning. We're doing it together. We're winning collectively. And this is something I haven't heard from Secretary Pompeo before. So it was very interesting to get the sense that he, in a way, is trying to talk the Europeans back into wanting to be transatlantic partners after the administration has done so much to turn them away.
On the other hand, many European leaders have a completely different message, saying the West is weakening. French President Emmanuel Macron was one of those today. He says he wants Europe to do more without the United States. In fact, we asked Germany's Foreign Minister Heiko Maas for his thoughts on the matter. Let's take a listen.
We will accept the invitation to this strategic dialogue. We believe that we first need to decide within Europe how to meet the increased demands. In the future, we will have to do more for our security. But I think it would be a mistake to pit Europe against the US. We're in a security alliance that works, NATO, but it needs reform, and we're discussing that now. We want to bolster the European side of NATO. And to do that, we first need to reach consensus in Europe. The dialogue that Emmanuel Macron has proposed can play a significant role in this. That's why we will take part.
So, Terry, it looks like Maas not ready to give up on the United States yet, or even on NATO, even though there have been these increased tensions with Europe.
That's right. Every European leader acknowledges that there is no replacement for NATO as the security guarantor for Europe. Even those Europeans, and there are very few, I would have to say, who talk about an EU army, always say that NATO will remain the chief source of security for all European countries. So it's not surprising to hear that from European leaders. What's more interesting is that Europeans are finally picking up the message that the U.S. has pushed on them for so long, that they need to be more self-sufficient. And so President Macron sees an opening for himself now, especially with the departure of Britain from the European Union, and he is definitely trying to position himself as both a disruptor to try to get Europeans to do more to defend themselves, and to position himself as the head of that movement. So it's going to be very interesting to watch the French leader's moves as he tries to establish himself in this position.
Yeah, that's a message we've been hearing from Emmanuel Macron for some time. Terry Schultz, thank you so much reporting for us from Munich.